I'm Scott, and I love debunking crap because people just think you're stupid. All right. So my CEO just received this email. Of course, it's spam, but it should be spam that if you went to an actual decision maker, any functional adult American should instantly have some inkling that a bunch is seriously wrong, besides the fact that it's spam and you shouldn't ever read it and should just delete it. But if you were to read it, you should read this and instantly go, wait a second. So, dear CEO, that actually used her name, did you know that 70 million baby boomers are projected to retire from the workforce by 2030, taking your organization's critical operations knowledge with them? This is keeping C-suite and boardrooms up at night, according to the vast majority of respondents in a landmark market study conducted by the APQC, the American Productivity and Quality Center. Well, let's talk about some of this BS. All right, so first of all, 70 million baby boomers is roughly the number of baby boomers born in the United States. 76 million is how many there were. The largest percentage of people participating in the workforce ever never touched 68%. So the largest number of baby boomers, if it was baby boomers who hit that peak, would only have been 68% out of that 76 million. So in the 40 millions range, high 40s, maybe was the absolute peak of the baby boomers era. So 70 million retiring is a good at least 50% more than we would have actually had probably ever in the market at its peak, at a potential over their lifetimes, right? So roughly 30% or so of the entire population who goes past the age of 16, those who never make it to 16 are not counted, will never even try to get a job. So they can't be retiring. Now we're assuming that of this remaining number, that there's this 48 million we have to worry about. Except, wait a minute, my father was a baby boomer. He retired more than 20 years ago. Many baby boomers, the majority of baby boomers, have already retired quite some time ago. Yes, there are some baby boomers who are working late, and there are some very late baby boomers who are just in the process of reaching retirement ages, but the last year of baby boomers is past the minimum retirement age, so we're well into the boomers having retired out. We're in the trailing tail of those retiring. So if you had 48 million at its peak, you certainly didn't have 48 million when they hit retirement age. It doesn't work that way, right? That number comes down, maybe 35 million, I'm kind of estimating there. And then of those, we expect that something like 80 to 90% would have already retired, leaving us with maybe 5 million people. Now, of those 5 million people, to say that they're going to take your organization's critical operations knowledge with them, that assumes that those 5 million people at retirement age are in critical roles and holding information that the Gen Xers and millennials have not picked up in all this time. While feasible, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. When's the last time you pictured an organization who had one or two straggling boomers in the organization and said, oh my gosh, these people carry the organizational knowledge that's really keeping us operational? Chances are they're not putting in full days. Their productivity is going down. They're past starting retirement age. Now, some people remain very productive late into their 70s, right? So you may have some people who could be in these positions, but generally they're not. They're not normally in the positions of adding extreme value. They're not doing the engineering. They're not doing the product design. They're not doing the operations flow. They're generally in positions of kind of overseeing things, making sure that processes move well, helping to provide some insight. Often they are already having to go and see a doctor more often, or needing to take more time off, or just wanting to enjoy a little bit more accrued vacation time, or whatever, things that your organization had to work around long ago. If they were ever in that position, of course, of this 5 million remaining baby boomers in the workforce, the majority are like any group in the workforce, especially those who are working later and not retiring earlier, blue-collar workers who are either working for themselves or doing manual labor. We still have a ton of people who are greeters at Walmart, cashiers, janitors, bus drivers, and so forth. We have lots of things that are important roles and we need done, but they don't constitute your critical operations knowledge. If all of those roles simply vanished, the number of companies that would significantly notice would be very low, because they could just hire people to replace them. In many of these cases, they're keeping people on because they have seniority and they're nearing retirement and they just want to let them retire out. Right, we're at a point where the percentage we expect of this group to have gotten into critical roles to be down to maybe a few 100,000 people, and those that are in critical roles and not doing their responsible thing and passing on that knowledge is essentially no one. Because if you aren't in a position that you're passing on your knowledge, you're not critical to the organization, right? Critical people pass on knowledge. So the number of people that could be impacted by this is really pushing extremely few. And you're talking about organizations that are, really dysfunctional in most cases to be at this point. Why would your very tiny number of baby boomers be the people holding your operational knowledge? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense in most cases. Always an exception to these things, of course, but really think about this. This doesn't make any sense. So this number, 70 million, and it's keeping, get this, C-suite and boardrooms up at night? What kind of idiotic C-suite and boardrooms are worried about this? And if you are someone who's worried about this, you are in this unbelievably unlikely situation that you are a CEO, CIO, CFO, whatever, or you're on the board of an organization and you're going, wait a minute, we've got a couple of near retirees who are just about to retire, and for some reason, we've not hired someone to replace them yet, or we haven't had them document stuff that they know about the organization. Well, just have them do so because you're worried about it. It's a really easy fix. You can't possibly have this be a really hard thing to handle, right? Like, this just doesn't make sense. So this is so unbelievably written as if it could be real. But imagine someone who's actually a decision maker in a company reading this and going, oh no, I'm worried about people retiring in some big group. It doesn't work that way. The baby boomers, while they were the largest generation, only a tiny bit larger per year than other years. If you look at Gen X, which is definitely smaller than the millennials, yeah, there is some impression of being more of them. But we measure Gen X and Gen Y, millennials, in 15-year increments, but we measure baby boomers in a 20-year increment. The amount that the baby boomers are larger than the millennials is roughly the amount that they had more years to include. So per year, which is the retirement rate, we don't actually care about generations. Just mentioning a generation is an attempt to mislead you. We get really close to the same number per year. So we have no special number of boomers retiring that's a sudden shock. And if it was, we've been going through the retirement of these people for 20 plus years at this point. So we're already 20 years. Anyone who's in a C-suite or boardroom position now has been for the last 2+ decades, easily 2.5 decades, have been already addressing this on an ongoing basis. So this news to a C-suite or a boardroom person should come a lot like simply telling them what the minimum wage is or what the cost per kilowatt of electricity is. Whether it's a high number or a low number, whatever it is, they've spent the majority of their careers already using it, and this is just another day at the office. There's no increase rate of retirement. We've been absorbing the highest rate of retirement is past. We're into the slower rate of retirement. We couldn't be less impacted by this at any other time until it's all over. Right? All of the real impact was long ago absorbed. So this is so absurd, and this is the kind of stuff that American C-suites and boardrooms are falling for in spam. When you receive spam, it's because someone engineered this for an American audience, in most cases if we're receiving it, because they think American decision makers will be fooled by this. That's a sad statement of faith in those workers.